Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. Definitely my favorite place to be. Hopefully it's one of your favorites too. Okay, we are coming to the end of the year, and I think that there's some important conversations that we can have that will for sure set you up in a way that is above and beyond anything that you have allowed yourself to be available for. And I'm using this language specifically because it's kind of unraveling even where I'm going with this. There's a lot of, I've seen a lot of, just the whole astrology thing and, the year of the snake versus the year of the horse and all that. And I think that we're sort of drawing into our lives, not just the version of us that we want to be, not just who we are here to be, but also we're drawing in the wisdom of who we can no longer be in order to be those versions of us that we can, for the most part, feel and we're sort of craving and desiring to be. And you've heard me talk about this before, where it's all about frequency, and you can't just choose, okay, this is the frequency I want to be on. You're calibrating your way to it. And so I think it's easier to have the conversation, well, here's my purpose, here's what I've done today, here's what I want to do. And we're always sort of out here in the world, sort of microphoning who we are to a certain degree as well, and creating our world. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. But I think that it's not as readily talked about that we are creating through deciding who we're not being, and not just choosing that in the moment, but continuing to choose that over and over again and be curious about who we're not, so that we can make sure that we're not just rubber banding back and repeating that. And I feel like that's a lot of what's gone on in 2025. I think it's not that you don't know what you want, even with regards to money. It's your own calibration of saying no to the version who is on the frequency, who doesn't have access to what you want, I feel like is what it's about right now in order to step into this 2026 thing that we're all looking forward to, right? The great thing is all of this happens outside of time. So even though we are kind of end of year, beginning of a year, which is a linear time calendar, and a lot of us are, talking about goals, and, you do all these kind of like habits and rituals, but I don't know that we really ask ourselves how much good do these habits and rituals really, like, we're spending our time talking about our goals, and everybody goes to the gym in January and all of that, but like, really, like, maybe the more powerful conversation is, how can we do things that look like nothing we did last year at this time? Because if we're not sitting on the results that we want to right now, then I think that's probably the better place to start. I am doing it's a goal-oriented workshop inside of SI Club Advanced. That's our middle tier membership. It's around $200 a month. We're doing 2 workshops in there coming up in December. One of them is how to orient yourself around your goals with zero resistance. Because in my opinion, you're not questioning what you want to do. You are trying to bypass the resistance without focusing on the resistance and becoming it, because we know we can't focus on the lack, because then we create more of it. So the choice that we have in that is to bypass it. Doing nothing or operating based on kind of willpower and linear time and the doing and the scheduling and all of that is actually its own form of resistance. And so you have all this resistance around, okay, you want to make $1 million this month, let's say. Then you have that resistance of, well, how do I do that? And where's that going to come from? And then you go into the time and all of these stories, right? It just, even the goal itself is just almost like inviting you into a room of stories. And then you're having to deal with the resistance around the stories. So where I start from is that, because that's really, like, if you're talking about being in the moment, which is the only place that you can create, is dealing with what comes up the moment you say what you want. So that's one of them. And the other one is going to be related to, what went on in the investing world in 2025, and what do we want to focus on in 2026. Everything with wealth is positioning, and positioning yourself in a way so that you're ready when something happens, because I can feel what's happening. I mean, I think probably you can too if you've been into investing and you've brought your intuition into it. And over the last 3 years has been monumental, and even before that, the decade before that has been monumental. And earnings for the last quarter, over 75% of companies exceeded the earnings. GDP is at 3%, which is like great. Interest rates are down. Basically, all the assets are doing good to great, which we don't really even see times like this. And I know this is hard to see because sometimes you just like look at the news and it's like the news is going to send the most alarming thing up the flagpole, of course. But if you really look at what's going on, there's a lot of good things going on. And we're going to be, stable coins is a big conversation that we're going to be having in 2026. And there's been a lot of investing in AI from an investor perspective, but also within companies. They have spent a lot of money on bringing in the technology so that they can excel and stay competitive and all that. So we're going to get to see the results of a lot of that in 2026, which is really, I think, going to be quite fascinating. So everything is poised for the real estate market to be a bit more supported. It's not that it's in the toilet or anything, but if you really look at the macroeconomics, it always paints the story. And that's kind of the way that I do it. I look at what's the big picture going on. And then I do look at the stuff that's like, being said and thrown around in the news, because that rhetoric has an emotional charge to it. And what is the market? The market is just a conglomerate of a bunch of decisions being made at the same time, right? And then that's what sets the price of the market. Now, some of it is retail, some of it, is more institutional investing. So you could say, well, it's not everybody just saying yes or no. But I think on a collective, we are moving into living and feeling energy on that collective basis. And there's an advantage to bringing the expansion of money into that. Like, you can continue moving towards your own expanded greater consciousness from a spiritual level, with the things that you already like, whether you have some type of practice or routine or meditation, or, maybe it's other things you're even doing with other people. Maybe it's your business. Money is also a spiritual practice. Why? Because it's abundance. Why? Because it's energy. Why? Because it's part of your structure that's here to support you. You wouldn't treat your body horribly and then expect to go out there and be your best and do what you're here to do in the world at the maximum degree. What you do is you manage your energy with regards to your body, whether it's moving energy through your body with exercise or food or sleep or whatever. If you would apply that same to money, that is also a self-support system for you, then what you would do is, in that moment, you would completely change your relationship to money, because it's an advantage to you that it hasn't been seen that way before, right? When something hasn't been seen a certain way, you actually get to create a new relationship with it. And that relationship does not contain what? Resistance. So do you see how I'm talking about the whole bypassing thing? So when you bring your life vision together on this level, and you bring it together in a way that is new but doesn't feel not a part of you. That's what a lot of people do when they create goals that I see that gets them into trouble, is that it's so foreign. Like, it's something that you want, but it's so foreign to you that you really energetically have no access to it. And so how do you create something new that is already of you, that you're not trying to talk yourself into believing? Because many people have fear and scarcity with money, and you can't just talk yourself out of that. You can't just extract that and say, okay, don't feel this way anymore. You're not designed that way. You're not supposed to be that way. You actually are designed so that you are whatever is created in your physical world is a result of whatever you're the self-expression of. If you have fear and scarcity, then you are going to continue being the self-expression on some level of the fear and scarcity until you learn how to bypass that. And I believe that part of bypassing that, it is a deep going vertical, and that's what we do in the mastermind. But it is also expanding money, because part of what's creating this fear and scarcity is that you the heaviness that you feel about money, and that could be in the form of regret, that could be in the form of you don't trust yourself, decisions, it could be anything. It's kind of like this blanket effect. It's a heaviness that you feel, and you're not going to be able to just shed that until you get into the momentum of taking that responsibility off of you through the expansion of money. And so people think that investing is something completely separate. Was even taught to us, as that's something optional and something nice to have. I'm giving you my opinion here, but I guess maybe to a certain degree you're here to hear a little bit of that anyways. Investing is not an option anymore. We are expanding into greater consciousness, and that's what investing is. The only difference is it's the energy of money versus the energy of me having this conversation with you. This is expansion into greater consciousness, because I come here as it is absolutely my goal to not filter. Whatever's available to me is for you. Whatever is coming through me that I feel like would connect with you, that's what we're here to do. And nothing else exists in this world right now except for you and I being energetically connected here. And so that is just a transmutation of energy. My energetic currency is being transmuted into whatever form of abundance you call this for you. And this is where we actually escape language, right? Money is the same thing. Now, where we get into trouble with money is we start controlling money. And we start thinking, okay, well, I'm doing this podcast, therefore it means that it's going to bring in a certain amount of money. Well, I don't know why. I can't even track it back to why, and it doesn't matter. But I have always felt within every cell of my body that I go out and I trade my energetic currency. That is me. And the more open I am as a conduit, then the more abundance will come to me. And then that's where I leave it. Money always comes from things that I do, and other forms of abundance, right? Like, I cannot tell you my relationships right now. It like makes me emotionally even talk about it, how beautiful my relationships are. I mean, just last night, a friend of mine, she came over, she's in town, and it's like we were so close in college. And then, I was married, and then she went off and got married and had a kid. And it's just like, and now we had the best time last night. And when she left, she sent me a message and she's like, we're back. And I'm like, we're back. It's like time doesn't exist in a situation like that, right? That energy is no different than money. And once you start inviting money in that way, you actually forget about this fear and scarcity version of you. Um, we're about to open up enrollment for the 2026 Spiritual Investor Mastermind, which starts on February 3rd. So we're going to have a shorter enrollment period in December. So if you guys are on any of our emails, make sure you look for that. I think I've told you before, this is our biggest mastermind that we've ever run, that we're in week 5 on it. And these are just getting more and more powerful. People literally not knowing themselves on the other side of the 12 weeks. And so it's not about how much money you have. It does not matter how much money you have, because the amount of money is simply the result. It does not matter if you're in debt. It doesn't matter if you own a home. If you don't, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. Wealth, all of it comes down to positioning. And you can even look at this, like if you just look at 2025. So 2025, the beginning of April, it all came out about the tariffs, and then everybody was scared shitless. You see all these money gurus on Instagram talking about, you need to increase your emergency savings and forget investing, and the whole market is going to be just, everything was like, okay, this big problem. And I'm sitting here because, of course, I'm all about money neutrality, right? That's like the foundation of all the spiritual investor teaching. So I'm like, well, all right, it's go time. I need to help people. And it doesn't matter to me what it looks like for me or anything. So I just literally started making videos on money neutrality and being able to lean into this. And when you do that, when you're in money neutrality, you can see the opportunities. Well, the very, very bottom of the market didn't catch that day. I don't try and time the market, by the way. I have a feeling of when to buy, a roundabout feeling, and it has served me for 25 years, and I go with that. People ask me, should I trade in and out of this stock today? And da-da-da. I'm like, I don't operate that way. I'm like, I know when to buy. And I don't like to sell stock either. I just continue to put wood on the fire, more and more and more. Well, I ended up buying 2 days after the bottom, so which was a really, really, really low point. So, again, I don't always time that, and I don't try and time it. What I'm telling you is that you have just as much access to this as I do, because it's not like I was talking to some secret person. Or what I don't have, though, is fear and scarcity. And what I do have is an understanding of how important positioning is. Because had I not been ready to invest in the stocks that I did, which I went deep on NVIDIA and a lot of the tech stocks that were way down, then I would have missed that. Okay, so let's say I'd missed it. I wouldn't regret it, though, because I also have just as much knowing that there are going to be more, if not better, opportunities than that coming in the future. Like, I'll call it confident. I am so confident with myself, what is available to us as investors. And I'm so confident that there is always an opportunity. You just have to know how to look for it. It's no different to me than a conversation. If I'm having a conversation with someone and they get irritated or get angry or whatever, I look for the opportunity to shift that conversation. That's all I'm really doing with the market. So I also don't buy on like the super frenzied days on purpose, because when I see that something is really being driven by emotion and rhetoric, I also don't want to get swept up in that either. Like I'm like a Warren Buffett foundational investor that also incorporates all of the new modern kind of like, you know, the stuff that we have going on that is available for us right now in this moment in time, whether it be crypto or AI, or there's even other sectors that are also expanding in their own way. Like you look at healthcare. Look at the changes that we're seeing in healthcare, right? That used to be a sector that you just kind of would invest in as sort of like a safety. Well, now the healthcare sector is almost like a bunch of subsectors. You've got the ones that are like really driven by AI, and then you've got the ones that are still kind of like the mainstream dividend payers. Well, what an advantage. because they're still in that lower risk category. And so that's another thing, is that I find that people believe that they need to take a bunch of risk in order to make money in the market. And that is not true at all. You're going to take risk with a certain percentage of your portfolio, and then you're not. And you're going to base that on, yes, your risk tolerance and your age and all the things that you have going on, really your goals. What do you want to do? But I think the important thing is, like I said already, positioning, but also the creativity and the curiosity. And that's what I love. I love helping people do, is build portfolios, intelligently designed portfolios based on that, because then it keeps you interested. Then you're not going into 2026 with something that you have to do. Because I feel like that's what we're all done with, and with everything. I feel like we are so done with relationships that are not life giving. I feel like we're all done with having to worry about money. I feel like we're all done with even our own bullshit. And that's kind of how a little bit of the underlying language I was using at the beginning of this is really kind of opening you up to maybe look at the bullshit that you need to call on yourself. We use this word alignment, which some of this language doesn't even really apply anyways, but if that is a word that, resonates with you, alignment is a function of, are you going to call bullshit on yourself, as much as it is a function of knowing what you want to do. And in fact, a lot of times you're not even going to know what you want to do until you start calling bullshit on yourself. And you could say this as stepping into responsibility or what have you. I think that's what, in regards to the mastermind container, it I don't want to say forces, because you're there to do what you're there to do, but it is a strong invite for you to show up in a way that is so concentrated and it's so vertical. I mean, it's kind of like has a little bit of a head spinning effect to it, because people are really, really, there's a lot of emotion and there's a lot of not recognizing themselves, even in the first 3 weeks. And that's the way I design it, actually. It's always a different mastermind, but the underlying foundational design is the first 3 weeks. It is, you got to have a lot of holy shit moments in the first 3 weeks. And I like that it's starting February 3rd, because it kind of gets us through the January and sort of thinking about things. And then it really goes deep into it. We already have people that have, contacted us and are already enrolled in it. So I can already see how it takes shape based on you guys and your energy. And it takes shape based on where I am in my life. And I won't even go into all that, but I've had some big, big monumental things come into my life. And I've got some, my team and I have been spending a lot of time sort of even cleaning up, like the stuff that we have now, completing projects that we've had ongoing, putting bows on them, making some big decisions, because so much is coming into the world of the spiritual investor in the beginning of 2026. And it's positioning me to be able to step into this new version. So what I am teaching and helping you guys do is exactly what I'm doing in my own life. And I think that's one of the reasons that it works, because there's no separation. And we're all moving towards one consciousness. And that means as a collective with each other, but that also means in our life, because that ease and flow that you feel when you are spending time with your children, or when you are in a hot bath, or you are at the gym, or you're done with the gym, and all these things, like, it's not about how do you incorporate that into other parts of your life. It's how do you allow that into other parts of your life. There's nothing that you need to do other than bypass the resistance. And typically what I found when I bypass resistance, it feels awful at first. And so that's another thing, is that part of calling bullshit on ourselves is being okay with, it's not going to always feel friendly either. And that's actually the very first session of the mastermind. That's actually my conversation with people. Look, you're here for a reason, but you did not pay this money and spending all your valuable, beautiful time so that I'm your best friend, So, um, we have to love ourselves through such a strong desire to know who we are on the other side of saying no to us. Because I think that we have been in this conversation for many years now about creating boundaries with other people. The way that I look at it is I don't need boundaries with other people when I create boundaries for myself, all completely about me, because then I am the self-expression of the greater expanded version of myself. And that in itself becomes a language out there. That is the way that I choose to live, because I don't want to put boundaries can be quasi control on other people. And it's also, I'm just not dealing with it because I'm not going to spend my energy maintaining all that. It's a really rich way to live because I also don't have to remember what am I doing over here and what am I doing over there. Everything is just, it's the same. And so the conversation that I'm having with everyone is the same. The only difference is there's a closer inward connection to all of this. And really, I'm not filtering it. You're filtering it because I'm just saying, here's what's available. And you're saying how close you want to be with this. Like, of course, spending 12 weeks in the mastermind, of course that's close. Or like my friend last night who came and like, of course we're close, right? That may not be something that you want or need in your life right now, right? And it's great that if you can come here and get everything that you need and you can go out there and expand yourself in the world and help other people, then that's as close as you need to be. And so I encourage you to start looking at this from what does your soul need? Fuck what does it cost and how much time do you have and all that. Like, I'm going to say it, that's so 2025. What does your soul need? And when you choose that, whatever you choose, you stop the world for it. Bring that, I call it kid bike energy. I have a video on it inside of Advanced where it's like, the kid with the bike that they want something for Christmas, they want the bike for Christmas, and you cannot get them to stop talking about it. Everybody in the family knows that the kid wants the bike, and the kid wears the helmet and sleeps in it and da-da-da. Like, whatever you choose, because you are connected and you do know who you are. I believe that you wouldn't even be here if you didn't. I think 2026 is just about going so vertical. And when you do that, the other stuff in your life that you're not wanting in your life, it doesn't have room. Like, it doesn't have the space anymore. And just be okay with the fact that it's going to feel maybe not great at first when you do that. It's like putting on clothes that do not fit and having to wear them all day and having to go to the gym in them. And it's like there's an equanimity that you can bring to that. And I've talked a little bit, I won't get too far into it, but that's where you get into the lightness of being with regards to the polarity. And you can start living into the equanimity as a way of your expanded greater consciousness rather than expanding your consciousness with the concentration of here's what I want to do in the world, right? Because everything that we do is, as I said, a transmutation of our energetic currency. And when we do that, we are expanding. Now, do we stay or do we rubber band back? And sometimes the rubber banding back is actually part of the expansion. It depends on what you do at that point. And all of it is just the journey. All of it is. And all of it, once we start to feel this frequency that I'll call it the new frequency that we're on, which then is sort of like going up to the next floor of the building and you just have a different viewpoint. It does make everything more effortless in your life. So thank you for being here and sharing your wonderful energy with me. I'm just so grateful. And we've got a lot to do. So I'm looking forward to being here with you for a very long time. This is, October marked the 5-year anniversary of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. And oh my gosh, how much I've learned and grown through this. And I think that we're just even about to, all of us, go through this massive acceleration factor that is going to be so free and so fun, yet not feel like we're doing anything at all. All right. So much love to you.